Hey there guys, we're going to take a look at this next game using our 4-colored control deck. Now, this is actually the matchup against Tortured Reanimator, the black and red reanimation deck that we have seen a lot from eHustle. Now, I know this is not one of the major deck types in the format, and if you're not seeing the article, you may be a little confused on this personal video, or this video personally, either way. This is going to be kind of a bonus. I really wanted to do a video for each of the matchups to show, talk about the weaknesses, the strengths, possible options for sideboarding, and so on. Unfortunately, due to time restraints, I'm just not going to be able to do that. So I still wanted to get, at least a handful of videos out, and this is going to be just kind of a bonus to see how it matches against this deck. So, opening hand is pretty good. We have 3 lands, and they are each a different color. Now, Halmar Depths, of course, is going to be a little slow because it comes into play tapped, but thankfully we don't have an early game play anyways, so we don't have to worry about missing a Fume Spitter. Even if we did, we see we're on the draw here, even if we did top deck into the Fume Spitter on our first turn, we still have a Swamp available to us that we can make that play, and then choose to maybe skip our second play on the Hawks, and get the Depths out so we can get the Oracle on turn 3. But you'll see here it doesn't work out that way. So, draw into a Compulsive Research, going to put the Depths down first. Now, you see here we had 2 lands, that was the Bog, a Plains, and a Fume Spitter. So we will get the Fume Spitter on the next turn. We can get that into play. The Bog is actually going to be a very important card for this matchup. Obviously, being a reanimation deck, it is very reliant on having creatures in the graveyard, and there's a couple, Gravedigger effects of their own, plus the dredge abilities. So we're going to be definitely using that a lot. So turn 2, draw into the Fume Spitter here, going to put that down right away. Now off the Swamp on turn 1, you really don't have a read on what your opponent is playing, but this turn 2 Carnarium is pretty much going to tell you that it is going to be Tortured Reanimator. So he makes his first move here, is going to put down the Stinkweed Imp, and this is actually, kind of what I was referring to. The dredge ability here is very important to this deck. Gets some creatures into the graveyard, so if you have one of their the Gravedigger effects, you can get that going pretty early. Now, my opponent, I think, was not terribly familiar with how this works, but I'll explain that in a second. So draw into that land, and obviously going to use the Fume Spitter. If I make this guy a 0/1, and he chooses to block, he's not going to do any damage to the creature that is blocking him. So if he's not actually doing damage, then his ability, he's not actually doing damage, so he doesn't get the ability to kill them because of it. If you look at it here, hopefully you can see it or you're familiar with it. And when Stinkweed Imp deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. So by using the Fume Spitter to make it a 0/1, he's not going to be doing any combat damage. Obviously, it puts me in a bit of a bad position because if I attack into it, he is going to just simply block, so he can get that dredge ability going on early. And that can put me at a disadvantage, but at the same time, I think it's better because we have so many creatures that have a single attack power. I think it's much more important that we can, at the very least, not have our own creatures die. There's not usually a lot of creature kill in the Torture deck, to the best of my knowledge. I'll admit it, I'm not 100% familiar with this list like I am with some of the others. But usually there isn't much in the way of creature kill. Occasionally Deathspark, I believe, is brought in and stuff like that, but having not a lot of creature kill means that they're looking to do most of their creature control during combat. So if we can kind of keep the field clear with our own removal, then we might be able to put ourselves in an advantage here. So it's my turn. I'm going to start with the Oracle as opposed to the Compulsive Research, because the Oracle is going to need a turn before it can actually do anything, because of the Summoning Sickness, so I want to get him in as soon as possible. Now my options here are Lightning Bolt and the Bog. I don't really care about Lightning Bolt. Like I said, I do want some creature kill later on, but more important in this matchup is getting this Bog and being able to remove my opponent's graveyard. You see here I make that misplay and realize that what was I thinking kind of thing. Because, this is the situation. He's going to block with this, and it's going to present him with an opportunity to immediately dredge it before I have a chance to do anything. So having the Bog in hand would have been great. It would have given me at least somewhat of a chance. It would give me a turn, because it's going to take a draw. So he can kill that on my turn, but it's going to draw on the next one. But if I hadn't played a land, then I can play a land during the second main phase and actually use it after he is blocked with the imp and it's dead. Hopefully that made sense to someone other than me. But definitely made a misplay there, and that's why I'm trying to emphasize that this is what you really should have been doing. So Evolving Wilds is going to come down. Another misplay there. You know, I've talked a lot of times about how I like to, if I'm going to draw, you know, you look at my hand here, I could put down the Squad Hawk, but I think Compulsive Research is going to be a better option because it gives me, you know, I need a little bit of a faster game here. I need to draw into burn spells or my bigger creatures like the Skyfishers. I need to get things moving a little bit faster. So I'm going to be using the Compulsive Research, and I'm always one who talks about drawing cards before you playing a land because you may get a land that you need to play first. And this is one of those times where I made that mistake. I put the Evolving Wilds down first when I'm going to be using Compulsive Research. So definitely not good. It's also important if you use Compulsive Research with no lands currently in hand. That can lead you to a situation where you draw 3 cards and there are no lands and you have to discard 2. If I keep the Evolving Wilds in my hand, then I guarantee that I have at least 1 land in my hand. And then I can, take my play from there and really decide what the best move is. So you see, I do get lucky here, and I draw into the bog. And this is why I said this was another misplay here by putting this Evolving Wilds down first. I have left myself no opportunity to put this bog down, and it's going to give my opponent a chance to dredge up the Stinkweed Imp. And that's definitely not what I want to see. I want that to go as soon as possible. So I kind of another misplay there. I decide to discard the Evolving Wilds that I drew. I think perhaps getting rid of the planes might have been a slightly better move. It's, again, I say it's one of these things. It's not going to make or break the game, but if you can just fine-tune these little things, then you're really going to improve your game a lot. So, Evolving Wilds, I'm going to fetch out a mountain because we do now have 2 lightning bolts available to us and plenty of opportunity to kill stuff. He has yet to play any kind of other creatures yet, but there will be plenty of stuff coming down. You see, this is the Gravedigger effects I was talking about. The Scrabbler is the option they have through Madness. And you see, this is kind of why I was talking about my opponent not being familiar. If you play any experienced player who's using this Tortured Reanimation deck, they will most likely have dredged the Imp there to get cards in their graveyard so that they could have perhaps discarded off this Grave Scrabbler. I think this kind of emphasizes, I think newer players, people who are not familiar with this deck and are just trying to give it a test run, trying to learn it, they kind of underestimate and they're kind of very hesitant to actually use the dredge ability because they don't want to self-mill something that they consider important. So that's why I think this kind of shows my opponent's inexperience. And even better for me, it gives me an opportunity. I can now correct my mistake by not getting bogs, and I can put it into play on this turn and prevent him from having that option at all. So bogs are going to be the first thing I do so I can get rid of that imp. I now have an opportunity here to Lightning Bolt the Grave Scrabbler. I did this because otherwise we're going to be passing many turns back and forth. The Oracle being a 1 attack power can't get through the Scrabbler. My thought process here is that I really wanted, like I said earlier, I wanted to be kind of fast because if this Tortured deck really gets going, as soon as they draw Tortured, then they can really start pulling out their combos and getting their creature play down to a solid note. But being able to get damage in and trying to do as much as fast as possible, I think, is very important. Now, that being said, it's very hard because of all the reanimation effects. Killing off this Scrabbler gives him all kinds of opportunities to simply bring it back. Tortured, other Scrabblers, those all give him options to bring it back. If he doesn't have that creature in his graveyard, he has no chance to bring it back. But then we're sitting at a stalemate until I can get some of my flyers going. So, take it or leave it. This is what I did. I'm not saying it was the right play because I actually questioned it after I did it. And you'll see kind of how it plays out over the next turn or two. Ooh, just stop that there. So, here we go. Attack through. Opponent's turn. He is going to put down a face-down card, and this is absolutely going to be something that you know what it is. It is going to be the Raiders. It's the only morph card in the entire deck. So, as you see, this gives him the ability. He flips it. He's discarding another Grave Scrabbler that he had in his hand, and he's going to be able to reanimate this one. So, this is why I was kind of thinking afterwards that maybe I didn't make the right play here. I do think that the way to get an advantage here is to play fast against this deck, keep the board clear and swing through to get as much damage in as possible, but at the same time, you have to be very careful about these Scrabblers and what interactions he might have going with his Tortured, and just be aware of his graveyard at all times. It's very important in this matchup. So he's going to be able to simply use that ability, get that Grave Scrabbler back into his hand. So now it's my turn. I am going to use the Doomblade to kill the Raiders. The one good thing about this current situation is that he does not have Hellbent, so this Raider is going to be easier to deal with. You can use Lightning Bolt to kill it off, but Doomblade is target non-black creature, and a majority of the creatures in this deck are black. So whenever you have an opportunity to kill a non-black creature against a deck with black, in this case, whenever he plays a red creature, jump on the opportunity to kill it with Doomblade, because you will not be able to use Doomblade on any of his other creatures. You want to save things like Lightning Bolt to deal with Scrabblers, or the Burst Lightning. Those are cards you want to save to deal with those, because otherwise you're going to have a dead card in Doomblade in your hand. So, going to kill off both of those creatures using the Burst Lightning there, because that gives me an opportunity to save Lightning Bolts for a bigger creature. And I am going to still have enough lands available to me to cast Compulsive Research if I want to, which is great. I actually managed to get, I think this is the third Compulsive Research that I've had in hand, which is absolutely great. The more card draw, the better. So we get a great draw here. We have a land that we can discard, which was not guaranteed because we didn't have one before the draw. And even better, we get Core Skyfisher. And this is going to be kind of the win condition here, basically, not just for the power, but you'll see in a second, it gives us a great interaction. Now, Tortured Existence finally comes down. He is going to be able to use it to discard the Grave Scrabbler that is in his hand, and this gives him kind of a loop where he can use this to now return the other Grave Scrabbler, and then use that to get back the Raiders. Now, this is how it should have played out. He should have been able to do use the Grave Scrabbler, return the Grave Scrabbler to his hand, then he could have discarded it with Tortured Existence. He has the mana available for its madness cost, and got back the Raiders. This is how it should have gone. What he actually did, and again, more evidence that he is not as experienced with this as he should be, is he discarded the first Grave Scrabbler and used the madness ability to return the Raiders. Not the correct move. Oh wait, what did I just screw up there? Return target creature from graveyard to hand. Oh, okay, I see what happened. This is my confusion. My mistake here. I misunderstood this play. He's using the Tortured Existence to target the other creature, so he's still getting both back to his hand. He's using the Grave Scrabbler to return the Raiders, and then he's using the Existence to return the ability from the trigger of Tortured Existence allows him to return a creature. So when he activates that, he has to discard and then a madness, so he gets to return two creatures. That's my mistake. I apologize, blacking out for a minute here on my logic. So he's going to put down the Morph again, obviously going to be the Raiders here. So on my turn, I have plenty of options to kill it. You see I drew into another Doomblade, and I do have options to Lightning Bolt this other Grave Scrabbler, and I am going to do so because I am going to make kind of another move here that is, I think, very important. Now, I was talking about the importance of Skyfisher. Skyfisher is not only our biggest creature, but it is going to give us an opportunity to return a permanent. Now, the permanent we want to return here is going to be our Bog. There is more than one Bog in this deck, which is great. That gives us a lot of opportunity to draw into multiples, but what makes them even more powerful against this matchup is the fact that we have a full set of Skyfishers, and that is going to give us the ability to return the Bog to our hand and immediately replay it. So, fingers crossed, hope to get more Skyfishers, because we have now eliminated another one of the Grave Scrabblers as well as the Raider. So we know he still has a Scrabbler in hand, and he can activate that Tortured ability to get the madness cost, but we've put ourselves in a much better position because he can't get back two creatures every turn by killing one off and whatnot. So if he has two in his graveyard with that Scrabbler still, in his hand, then he can use Tortured and get both back like we saw last turn. Now, because of the fact that we got the Bog off the Skyfisher, we can remove those from game. Let's actually open up his exiled cards, just so we can keep an eye on this. And you see these are all important things that he wants kind of in his graveyard or on the battlefield. So being able to keep those both off the battlefield and in his exiled pile, that's pretty good. So that's really going to be our key here. We're going to look through these Mulldrifters and the Oracles to hopefully find more options to get a Skyfisher or another Bog. Even if we don't play it right away, we don't necessarily want to make that play every opportunity we have it. We want to hold on to, if I draw into a Bog or I find a Skyfisher, we want to be able to hold on to that until a point in time where it's going to be beneficial for us. Until a point in time we find another Stinkweed Imp in his graveyard or a Scrabbler or something like that. So now he plays the Death's Head Buzzard, and this is a little bit troublesome. I do make another misplay here. This was not one of my cleaner games, I will say. Obviously, I'm going to start out, I'm going to cast the Mulldrifter, hoping to find, again, another Bog or a Skyfisher, just so I have an answer ready in my hand. And I am tapping correctly, so I have left the mountain open for the Lightning Bolt at later point in time. Now, I decided to attack into this Buzzard, and he makes a good play here. He blocks the Skyfisher. Now, he's going to take, the Skyfisher's going to have 2 damage on it, and then the ability is going to trigger from the Buzzard, so it will kill off the Skyfisher. Definitely a misplay on my point. I could have decided to Lightning Bolt that before attacking, but I didn't. I misplayed. That's all I'm going to say there. Could have Lightning Bolted it. My hesitation was in the fact that it was simply a 2-1, and I really didn't care if it stayed there. I'm like, a 2-1 isn't going to cause us much problems, but I did not do the math and consider the fact that not only is it coming back, but it was going to be able to kill a Skyfisher if I had attacked that way. An easier play might have been to just simply attack with the Oracle, or if I didn't want to waste the Lightning Bolt, or wait till I got something else like the Squadron Hawk and attacked that way. But he is on his turn now going to activate the ability for the Grave Scrabbler. He's going to get that back into play along with his Buzzard, which is going to be trouble, and this gives me at least an opportunity for redemption. He's going to put that down, and now I have an opportunity to kill this off before I attack, so it's at a point where it doesn't matter. You see here, I do use the Lightning Bolt ability, everything gets -1/-1, but it's till the end of turn, so here we go. Draw a new Squadron Hawk, going to start off by putting out the Prophetic Prism so we can draw a card and see what we can come up with. Find a Halamer Depths, but I'm going to start out with the Gravedigger. I talked about finding, digging and drawing cards in order to find another Bog or another Skyfisher so we can continue to recur that, but I forgot to mention that you can also use Gravedigger. By having that Skyfisher dead, this is, actually a little bit in my favor. I could have sat here and been like, oh yeah, I meant to do this because I had the Gravedigger in my hand, but, this just worked out in my favor. I realized I don't need to draw one of these things. I can actually use this Gravedigger now and return this Skyfisher that I accidentally sacrificed. I can return it to my hand so that I can replay it and get this Bog back. So down is going the Depths. I reveal yet another Skyfisher, so I am going to put that on top. He knows that I have one in hand because of that, the Gravedigger ability, but it does give me an opportunity to get a second one that he does not know about. So, going to Blightning first, trying to get rid of those 2 cards that he had in his hand before I got this Bog back into play. That way, if he had anything else in his hand that he wanted to be recurring in the graveyard, I would be able to get rid of those as well when I replayed this Bog. Unfortunately for me, they were just mountains, a mountain and a Terramorphic, so he really didn't have anything else. I guess that's unfortunate for him too. So those get removed, and now I am going to put out a Squadron Hawk and fill up my hand with the other 2 that are in my deck. This kind of tells him that I now have all 3 in my hand, but at the same time, it's going to at least get that aggressive thing going here. I still have I could have played this other Skyfisher, but I really just didn't want to just show my hand right away. I would like to hold on to that until later on. I know at any point in time I can use the Skyfisher to return the Bog. So his turn now, replays the Buzzard and decides to concede. Replays the Buzzard. This is a new Buzzard that he drew, but he realizes that I'm probably going to be a little bit smarter about doing this, and I would be. If I had the next turn available to me, I would start off by playing the Oracle and seeing what I come up with, and that gives us opportunities to do Skyfisher and get rid of this Grave Scrabbler that he has in his graveyard. So, talking about the matchup real quick, I I want to say it is slightly favorable because of the fact that you have the bogs, and you have this ability with the Skyfishers to return the bogs, and having Grave Control is ideal in this matchup. Um, you look at just a lot of the matches that do have Grave Control, and I kind of talked about it recently as being something that is a little more powerful than people give it credit for. And this is definitely one of those cases where you can definitely win a significant amount more games because of the fact that you get all these bogs and you have Grave Control available to you. Now, that being said, it really depends on who you're playing against. I feel that some players have a significantly better handle on the game. If you came down against, someone like eHustle who was running this deck, you would have a significantly harder time, even despite the fact that you had bogs available to you. So, like I said, I want to say that it is slightly favorable, but I'm going to actually revise that and just say 50-50. It's a hard deck to play, but it's also, if they know how to mulligan, if they know the hands they need, it's going to be something that they can easily get an advantage on you for. And that's definitely going to hurt you, I guess. I feel like I had something much more creative to say there, and it just didn't happen. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoy it, and definitely if you're a little confused about what's going on here, go check out the article on puremtgo.com, and I kind of talk about the deck and whether or not it can be a valid rogue option.